Hello and welcome back to Mina Unfiltered. I'm Mina and I have lots of opinions and even more questions, so let's get into it. I was recently gifted a copy of Henry David Thoreau's Walden and Other Writings. I hadn't read Thoreau since we read an excerpt of Walden in 10th grade, so it was a walk down memory lane. I chose to read Life Without Principle first, and it both pleased and disturbed me to know that people have been lamenting the same negative aspects of American society for nearly 2 centuries. The first thing about Thoreau's writing that stood out to me was just how human it is. I could easily picture him in my dilettante polymath group chat, complaining to and challenging the other participants as we tend to do. Not even 2 pages into the essay, I found myself thinking, damn, he's just like me for real. I have a newsletter, and I recently lost a subscriber after posting one of my more incendiary essays, and given that I only had 9 to begin with, I began to wonder if I should tone things down a little. After all, I'm well aware that my opinions tend to be more extreme than the status quo typically allows, and I thought it might be best to stick to the easy topics, the ones that would just barely push my subscribers to consider a new perspective, the ones that you could nod along to and go on your merry way. But Thoreau assured me that the first, more difficult path is the right one for me. He said, I take it for granted when I am invited to lecture anywhere, for I have had a little experience of that business, that there is a desire to hear what I think on some subject, though I may be the greatest fool in the country, and not that I should say pleasant things merely, or such as the audience will assent to. And I resolve accordingly that I will give them a strong dose of myself. And that last line, I will give them a strong dose of myself, really resonated with me. People write for different reasons, and undoubtedly, other people's opinions have to be considered when writing for an audience. But for me, Mina Unfiltered is my space to share my earnest thoughts with people who are just as curious and as questioning as I am, to both wrestle with tough topics and share my opinions on the latest movie. In short, Mina Unfiltered is my space to give y'all a strong dose of myself. And I have many, often conflicting parts. I'm glad y'all are along for the ride, but I won't take it personally if you decide that this train isn't for you. In Life Without Principle, Thoreau laments 2 major aspects of modern life: the obsession with useless work and commerce, and the overconsumption of news and other distractions that hijack our attention. Reading this essay honestly felt like I could be reading a contemporary article in The New Yorker about smartphones and the haphazard ways we give away our attention so critically today. Anyone who knows me knows that a girl does not want to work, and the idea of working a traditional job literally gives me the heebie-jeebies. And I'm currently living my best unemployed life. For the longest time, I thought I was just a lazy grifter who needed to grow up. But recently, I realized that my particular brand of neurodivergence, ADHD gang, just has a hard time sucking it up and throwing myself into a system that I find useless, nonsensical, and harmful to the masses. Thoreau warned against doing useless work, especially work that ravages the earth. Hint, hint, solely for the sake of making money. To him, work should be done for the good of society and the satisfaction of the individual, not to generate capital to be squandered on nonsense. Unfortunately, this madness has only escalated in the nearly 2 centuries since Thoreau died. And as of June 2026, we are polluting the air in poor communities and squandering with the fresh water supply so that 3 rich guys can lose money on generative AI. We're scrolling endlessly while technocrats sell our and our children's attention to the highest bidder. I say we because, like Thoreau, I am not immune to falling into the status quo. For the past few months, I've been thinking about what freedom means to me and what it would look like to live in a truly free society. America calls itself the land of the free, but is it really? As Thoreau questioned, do we call this the land of the free? What is it to be free from King George and continue the slaves of King Prejudice? What is it to be born free and not live free? What is the value of any political freedom, but as a means to moral freedom? Is it a freedom to be slaves or a freedom to be free, of which we boast? I live in Tennessee, where our Republican legislature recently gutted the state's only majority Black and heavily Democratic voting district and parsed it into 3 majority white ones in order to reduce Black voting power. I've been fighting against nihilism and the feeling that the entire political system is a farce since 2016. If you know, you know. But it's hard not to feel that way when blatant corruption happens daily. Sure, we vote for candidates every 2 to 4 years, but when there's no real accountability mechanisms during these terms and our media spends its time and money manufacturing consent, is that really a free and democratic government? Is this how we want to decide what our world looks like? Is this freedom? It doesn't sound like it to me. If anything, it's bondage in a blue dress. Overall, I really relate to Thoreau as someone who needs more autonomy than most to feel content in life. So many things about modern life bother me, from the way we work and educate our children to the way we travel and source our food. And it's comforting to know that I'm not the only one who occasionally feels like a crazy person for not being able to bear how insane this setup truly is. I know my man Henry would weep at the sight of an Excel spreadsheet chronicling shareholder value. Thoreau emphasized the importance of having a rich inner life, and every day I'm grateful to have a mind that dares to imagine better, regardless of how others feel about it. I don't have a tiny end to this episode, and I only wish for us to finally create a form of living that respects personal autonomy and freedom while providing space for the collective good. You may call that daydreaming of an unrealistic utopia. I call it imagining better than the best I know. Yours in liberation, Mina.